I don't know. Just seems kind of like a rookie mistake, but.
Very much. 3, 2, 1, clap. 3, 2, 1, clap. 3, 2, 1, clap. That's so funny that it's so delayed.
That should
Someday
definitely be
put
in the beginning of the video, because I think people would want to see that.
Hey, like if people Googled on YouTube, people clapping, it would just be us clapping.
And then they'll be like, what's this? And you gotta do it with your eyes closed.
Did either of you follow this latest Brett Kavanaugh story? The Supreme Court justice who was put on the Supreme Court last year. He has been on the Supreme Court for a year now, but he went through an extremely contentious hearing last summer.
Somewhat. Yeah, I mean, I was aware of it. The details of it, I wasn't always 100% up to date on everything.
Okay. So last week, this past weekend, these two reporters for the New York Times wrote a book, and they're going on a book tour this week. And one of the best ways to get on book tours and get people talking about a book is controversy. So they write this column in the New York Times, ostensibly the paper of record in the United States, and they say that there's a new allegation against Brett Kavanaugh. I don't know if you know the whole story with the allegations last time, but a 50-something-year-old woman said that when Brett Kavanaugh was 17 and she was 15, he laid on top of her in a room fully clothed for about 5 or 6 seconds and really made her uncomfortable, and it traumatized her so much, and she never forgot it for the rest of her life, and she decided to bring it up for the first time ever while he was being confirmed to a Supreme Court justice 40 some odd years later. There's no evidence of it. There's no evidence that they even met ever. They weren't in the same circles. They didn't even go to the same high school. There's no evidence that the house exists where she claimed this occurred. There's no evidence of or no witnesses to it at all. There's no one who said they drove her there, drove her back. None of this. Again, she was 15. He was 17, according to her story. Turns into a whole thing. And then because she gave this testimony, other women, 2 women, also came forward with stories that similarly had zero evidence, no corroborating witnesses, nothing. So that was a year ago. He gets on the Supreme Court. The Senate and America basically decided, look, we're going to need a little bit more if you're going to destroy someone's life and character and reputation, his extremely well-earned reputation his entire adult life. We're going to put him on the Supreme Court because this is not how the standard should be to destroy someone. We need a little bit more than that. And so this latest allegation came out, but it's not a real or new allegation. The woman who said, or the woman that this news story happened about, and this is kind of applicable to you guys because you're like a year removed from how old Brett Kavanaugh was as a college student at Yale in the early 80s where this allegedly occurred. Everyone's drunk. They're in the dorm rooms. The claim is that somebody exposed his you-know-what, and somebody pushed her into it, and that was that. That's the story. She, and this is the key point here, doesn't remember it at all, didn't go to the press, doesn't want to be interviewed about it because she doesn't remember it. She's like, I don't know that even happened.
This is a new girl?
New girl, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that even happened. That part was left out of the column in the New York Times. That little sentence there was edited out. And
I don't know if that even happened.
Yeah, the fact that she doesn't remember it at all, the actual victim. That in the original posting of the story, that wasn't in there. And everyone's like, oh, Brett Kavanaugh, new allegation. Maybe he was a bad person after all. Now the whole story was this week how much the New York Times screwed up by omitting that key piece. And now all these women, these journalists, these 2 journalists are on the defense for really botching this story. And again, this is supposed to be like the pinnacle of journalism, and they omitted this story, or this
like
one line that's kind of important.
It's such a significant piece of information that omission is like, I don't know, that it obviously drastically affects people's perspective of the story, and so that's like, it's not just like leaving out a kind of irrelevant sentence or piece of the story. So,
right.
It's pretty messed up.
I don't know. I remember probably when I was freshman, sophomore year of college, drinking alcohol before I was legally allowed to. I know you guys never have, but I did. I'll admit it on camera a couple of times. I do remember pretty much everything I did. If you're I mean, not every single moment of the time, like now 20 plus years later, however long it's been, but we're talking about 40 years in this guy's case, or 35 plus years, and nobody remembers it. Like the people who are bringing this up have every reason in the world to destroy him and to try to take him down, but again, you kind of need evidence. I guess my question to you guys is, just in your life, in your world right now, like, if you heard something like that happened, would you immediately believe it? Or what sort of, just in the court of public opinion, not with the police or not going to the campus authorities or whatever, just like in your circle of friends in college, what would you need from someone to believe that something like that occurred? Sarah Kate.
Yeah, you got it.
Well, for me, I feel like, well, depending on who told me, like, if
That's
someone was there, but it's hard to be, like, our age in college and be like, I don't believe you, because that's, like, kind of what people say, like, you shouldn't do if something like that happens, I feel like. Like, you don't want to make someone feel like they're, like, wrong if it did happen. You don't want to put
guilt on the victim is, like, the whole thing. It's, like, being pushed now.
But, I mean,
right.
I also think, like...
On the alleged victim.
Right. Right. And the whole thing is, like, I mean, we live in America, like, innocent until proven guilty, and, like, to be proven guilty, like, you need some evidence of some sort.
Like Sarah Kate was saying, I feel like a lot of it has to do with the source of who it's coming from. If it's someone I know really well, like, I trust them, like, everything they have to say, like, I know them, like, them as a person very well,
right, then
I feel pretty comfortable believing whatever they tell me. But if it was kind of, like, a distantly passed on piece of information, I would... If it was an accusation on a guy for sexually assaulting a girl in some sort of way, it would make me kind of hesitant and wary of that person, but I by no means, like, assume that they did that, because there are a lot of girls who falsely accuse people of that, and it happens all the time, and it's scary for guys, because it's, like, if like, they're in a situation and they do something, it's not even, like, having sex with someone, even if it's something else, like, joking around, and a girl all of a sudden becomes embarrassed about it, or, like, I don't like, right, that kind of thing, it's, like, it is very common that girls will kind of, like, will have been very drunk, and blame is put on guys very easily, and I've heard stories of girls doing it to guys I know and things like that, so I know there are a lot of girls, and then that's very disrespectful to people who actually are victims, and girls do that all the time, and then that's taking away the validity of people who stuff actually happens to, by making it so easy to make accusations. But so, in summary, I guess, to answer your question, I would not automatically assume that a guy had done something like that, because girls can have lots of ulterior motives, or
anyone can have ulterior motives.
Yeah, and holding up their own reputation or whatever it is. So,
and I mean, it could also be like a girl maybe doesn't remember something, and then one of her friends who hates the guy is like, well, I saw you go in there with him, and, like, I know you, like, didn't want to, blah blah blah, and, like, the girl might not remember it, but she might be like, oh my gosh, why would he do that? I don't know. There's lots of things can happen.
Right. There just can be a lot more to the story, so I would not automatically assume that a guy is guilty of that. Or in this girl too. Yeah, girl too.
Yeah. And I mean, in this particular case, it sounds like it was a party where there were a bunch of people, and again, a body part was exposed, running into it, whatever. Like, if there's more, this isn't two people behind closed doors, he said, she said. You would think something like this, it would be talked about on campus or in the sorority or fraternity where it happened, wherever. They'd be like, oh man, that was crazy. What happened? Like, there'd be some witnesses. There'd be somebody. And I mean, to me, I know when two people are behind closed doors, it's very difficult. You just have to, it is one person versus the other person. But, you know, in a case like this, where it's at a party, yeah, if 2 or 3 people said, yeah, it happened, and here's what happened, I would believe that. Even if it's someone I don't necessarily know, if 3 people are saying, or even just 2 people, and they're corroborating it, that's what corroborating means. 2 different people saying things that are the same from different perspectives. Like, that means that it probably happened. Whereas in this case, there's none of that, and it is really, it's bad for a lot of reasons. For a lot of the reasons that you said, these personal lives can be destroyed and ruined, but also just from a journalism perspective. We go to national TV on something that wasn't verified.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like one of the top national news sources too. Like, you know, you have a reputation to uphold, and this big of a mistake just can, I don't know, decrease the validity of lots of other stories, make people hesitant to believe what other kind of information they're withholding. Yeah. So I don't know, just seems kind of like a rookie mistake. But
very much. Anything else about this you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Lastly, I'm going to leave you with this. This is, to me, why I have optimism of the future. When we were doing these podcasts a couple of months ago, you guys exposed me to this video called Old Town Road, which at the time was kind of underground, not really huge, and then it, of course, blew up to like the biggest thing. What's so awesome about that is it's like an African-American guy singing with a white guy. It's kind of country thing, but it's blended with hip-hop. It's like races getting along, like cultures coming together. Like, that should be our goal. That's a good thing. That's not, no one's talking about privilege or social identity or any of that stuff. It's like, hey, we are both, you know, dancing to a song that sounds really cool. Well, I became aware of this song just this weekend. You guys probably already know it, but this is like the new song that people are doing at weddings or something. Blanco, the Git Up. Are you aware of it?
Yeah, that's what we're going to show you.
Oh, how about that?
All right, so you can just do a 2-in-1. So it is all around. It's like the new like electric slide, pretty much, because there's like a dance with it. It's like and there hasn't been, I feel like, a new dance like that in a long time, where it's like kind of just like everybody does it.
Yeah, and this is the most expensive video ever made, they say.
I don't think I've ever watched the video. Send me the video.
I just did.
It. Oh, sorry.
It's the most expensive video ever.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah. It's like so many actors and set piece and everything. It's just so expensive. All right, well, that is going to do it for this edition of the X and Z podcast. Anything else you would like to add, Generation Z?
That's about it.
All right, well, I don't know if I told you this. I was going to tell you guys later, maybe off the air, but Aunt Joan and the kitties send their love.
And we send our love to them.